Hello guys, I hope all of you are doing well. In this video, we are going to discuss our question maximum consecutive ones, the first part of it. So in the input, we are given an array that contains only 0 and 1. And we are required to find the maximum number of consecutive ones will be there if we are allowed to flip at most 1 0. First, let's understand our question. So we are given an input array and we are required to find the maximum consecutive ones. So first, let's say what will be its maximum consecutive ones. Let's forget about the special power that we got, just maximum consecutive ones. So we know it's going to be 3, right? It's going to be 3 as there are 3 consecutive ones here, right? Now, the catch is that we got a special power that we can flip a 0th coin and make it 1. So let's say here a 0 coin and we make it 1. So here it's going to make it 3 consecutive together, right? Let's say we do change this 0 to 1. So what impact is going to make? That there are total 5 consecutive ones now, right? So this is our question. We can flip a 0 and make it 1 and we are required to calculate the maximum consecutive ones. Perfect. I hope that you have understood the question. Now we are gonna discuss the approach, how we are going to calculate it, right? So what we are going to do is, of course, traverse the whole array, right? Let's say I is our variable. With the help of I, we are going to traverse the whole array, right? So let's see what will happen. Let's see what will happen. So let me write it here as well. Here, how many consecutive ones are here? It's 1, right? And now you get here, how many consecutive ones? Again, it's a 0. It's a 0 and we know 1 0 is allowed, right? So again, you can include it in answer. You got 2. And now your I is here. So it's 1 0 1, right? 3. Now if your I is here, then now you can't include this 0 because you can, or you are only allowed to flip 1 0 and make it 1, right? So what you are going to do, if you want to include this, you got to exclude the previous 0, right? So that's our task, that how will we exclude the previous 0, right? If you want to include it, we got to exclude the previous 0. So let's see how we will achieve it. Okay. So what we'll be needing is a variable that is counting that number of 0 for us. So I'm going to call it 0 count. That is initially 0. Okay. What else? We'll needing a j variable, right? I'm gonna tell you that why we have created a variable j, but for now have faith, right? And j value is -1. Now we are required to calculate its length. Let's see how we will calculate it. So we are at I, our I is 0. So how many consecutive ones we can store at 0? We are required to calculate the length, right? At the end, we are required to calculate the max length, right? Max length. So let's just talk about length for now. Using the max length variable, we can definitely calculate the max length. So we are required to calculate the length. So the length you can calculate with a formula. What is that formula? I minus j. Let's see how will this work. So we are at 0th index. So if we use this formula, it will be 0 minus -1. What will we get? We will get 1. Right. And as you can see in I, there are 1 consecutive 1. Of course. So using this formula, we can calculate it. Let's calculate it. So here it is 1 length. Right. Here it is 1 length. Now we increase our I, it gets to first index, right? If it is 1, then this time what will be our length? It will be I minus j, 1 minus -1, that is going to be 2, right? Your 0 count is, oh sorry, we forgot to discuss it. Okay, so our I gets to 0 and we know that we are allowed to include a 0. So our 0 count is going to be 1 now because we are including a 0 and we are required to include a max 0. So again, by using I minus j formula, 1 minus 1 minus 1, if you are going to get 2. Perfect. Also our max length, earlier it was 1, now it is 2. Right. Again, We are going to move our I. This time it is 1. So of course we can include it. It's going to be 2 minus minus 1. That is 3. Our max length is going to become 3. Then we increase our I. And now, important case, it gets to a 0. So what if our I is equal to 0? That means that if we want to include it, we got to exclude the previous 0. So how we will do it this time? We are gonna simply increase our j till when? Till it is equal to 0. Let's see why. So here j is equal to 0. No, we are gonna j is equal to 1. We gotta keep increasing until here hits a 0. So here j is equal to 0. Now if we focus on our formula, that was I minus j. So that means we are excluding this j. This j is acting as a boundary for us. Right? So let's see how. So here, if we use again our formula, that was I minus j, we are gonna get 3 minus 1, that is 2. And as you know, there are 2 consecutive ones if we make it 1. Right? So we are gonna get 2 here. That means our max length will remain the same. Right? Here it got, see, when we reached here, our 0 count became 2. Right? And then we traversed our j and now we decrease our 0 count. It is 1 now. Perfect. It is 1 now. Now, here we calculated our length. It was 3 minus 1. That was 2. Now we move our I. It gets to the 4th index. It gets to the 4th index. It again calculates its length. Its length is 4 minus 1. That is 3. Same as our max length. Perfect. Now we get to the 5th index. We calculate our length. Right, a 0 count is 1. It's valid. So it's going to be 5 minus 1. That is 4. We are going to increase our max length to 4. Perfect. Now I gets to 6. We are going to calculate our length. It is going to be 6 minus 1. That is 5. And our max length is going to be 5. Now, important point. Our I gets to 7th index. That is 0 value. So if it is 0 value, we are going to increase our 0 count. It is going to be 2. So if our 0 count is greater than 1, what we are going to do is increase our j until it hits a 0. So here it gets to a 0. So if it gets to a 0, we are going to decrease our 0 count and make it 1 again. Right? And now if we calculate our length, it will be I minus j, that is 7 minus 3. It is going to be 4. Sorry, it's going to be 4. And then again, we increase our I. It gets at 8 index, that is 1. So we calculate our length, 8 minus 3, that is 5. Same as our max length. So ultimately our max length is equal to 5. Okay. So now that we have understood this much, let's code it. So first, what we will be needing is a max length that store our length. We will needing 0 count. That number of zeros are there. And we will reading a j that is initially minus 1. That will help us in calculating our length. So firstly, we are going to run a for loop for int I is equal to 0 till I is less than array dot size. Now, what we do if array I is equal to 0? If array I is equal to 0, we simply increase our 0 count. That how many zeros we got. We are only allowed 1 0, right? Now, we run a while loop and we check if 0 count is greater than 1. Right? If 0 count is greater than 1, that means it is not allowed. We got to exclude our previous 0. So what we are going to do is increasing our j. Right? And what we are going to check? If array of j is equal to 0. That means we have successfully excluded our previous j. Right? So we are going to decrease our 0 count, right, by 1. And then we calculate our length. Our length was I minus j. Perfect. We calculated our length and we ultimately need the max length. So max length will be equal to max of my length, that is max length, and the current length that I just calculated. Perfect. And then I get out of the loop and simply return my max length. Simple as that. Now let's run our code. Accepted. Now let's submit it. Perfect. So it was simple code at which this code we did the similar thing. We ran through, we calculated the number of zero. So if zeros is greater than 1, to include the new zero, we got to exclude the previous zero. So we keep increasing our j value until we find a zero. If we did got a zero, we decrease our zero count and ultimately calculated our length by I minus j. And eventually we return our max length. So that's it for this video. If you liked it, do not forget to like, comment and share. Thanks for watching.